Ladies and gentlemen, all of us gathered here believe that the application of democratic principles, operating within the context of strong, private sector-dominated market economies, with good, honest management of public finances, provides the most effective platform for growth and rapid development. We of this persuasion, of this worldview, what the Germans call our Weltanschauung, won the ideological battle of the last century. And today, our philosophy is the one that has taken and continues to take millions of people out of poverty and to create broad-based prosperity. We, however, cannot pat ourselves on the back and say our policies and philosophies have become the dominant ideologies around the world, and therefore our work is done. We need a continuous process of engaging all peoples on what our values are, because an ideology that seeks to liberate the energies of people and generate opportunities for them to realize their God-given talents is the best route for bringing prosperity, not only to the African peoples, but also to all peoples of the world. The man who is regarded as the doyen of Ghana's politics and who led the first political party in Ghana to fight for national independence, Joseph Boachier Danquah, of most blessed memory, articulated clearly over 60 years ago at the height of the Cold War, the policy which continues to guide my party, the New Patriotic Party. This was when much of newly independent Africa was already submerged in authoritarian ideologies, emphasizing state control of the economy. He said, and I quote, "Our policy is to liberate the energies of the people for the growth of a property-owning democracy in this land, with right to life, freedom, and justice as the principles to which the government and laws of the land should be dedicated in order specifically to enrich life, property, and liberty of each and every citizen," unquote. The reappearance of coups in Africa in all its forms and manifestations must be condemned by all, since it seriously undermines our collective bid to rid the continent of the menace of instability and unconstitutional changes in government. Ladies and gentlemen, the truth is that democracy, development, security, and respect walk in tandem. When a country is peaceful, is committed to upholding democracy, good governance, and respect for human rights, and provides security for its citizens, that country develops and is respected. If the African continent is to take its rightful place in the world, it has to shed its image of instability and overcome the conflicts that have plagued us for so long. The current fracas in Sudan is a tragic case in point, which imposes on all of us the duty to make concerted efforts to bring the violence to an immediate end and begin the process of restoring democracy to that unhappy country. Those who seek to play meaningful leadership roles in Africa would necessarily have to prioritize the establishment of a peaceful atmosphere on the continent. A major threat to the realization of democracy, development, and security in Africa has to be the challenge posed by terrorism and violent extremism. Over the years, we have learned, most often through bitter experience, that terrorism and violent extremism are not restricted to particular geographic locations or jurisdictions, as the impact of a single terrorist incident in one part of the world resonates throughout the world. The fight against terrorism and violent extremism cannot be limited only to military means, vital as they are. Broader policies must also be put in place to create opportunities and jobs for our youth if we are to deny the terrorists the material for their murderous ambitions. Firstly, through education. We have as a matter of great urgency to ensure access to education for all our youth, especially our young girls. We're told that 89 million young Africans of school-going age are not in school. That has to stop, and stop now. In Ghana, at great cost, we have, since my assumption of office in January 2017, instituted a system of free secondary education in our public schools, which has increased enrollment in our secondary schools by nearly 2 million, by nearly 50%. 2 million Ghanaian children are currently beneficiaries of the free senior high school policy, the highest number of pupils in secondary school in our history. The cost of providing free secondary education will be cheaper than the cost of the alternative of an uneducated and an unskilled youthful workforce that has the capacity to retard our development and to pose a threat to the peace and stability of our nation. Secondly, through the structural transformation of our economies. With the majority of the continent's economies dependent on the production and export of raw materials, it is not surprising that our youth want to live in search of greener pastures elsewhere in economies that generate more jobs. We cannot continue traveling this worn path of limited success of being exporters of raw materials. We have to embark urgently on the structural transformation of our economies. The only way to ensuring prosperity for our populations in Africa is through value addition activities. In other words, through industrial development with modernized agricultures in transformed and diversified economies. We must leave rapidly behind the old agrarian economies and embrace the technological and digital potential of the new modern economies, and thereby give opportunities, jobs, and hope to our young people to live dignified, productive lives here in Africa. We must build a strong bridge across the Atlantic, for the vision has to be of a black world on both sides of the Atlantic, which leverages hard work, enterprise, creativity, and innovation to engage in mutually beneficial trade and investment cooperation that will help guarantee the prosperity of black people the world over. We should never forget the admonition of the celebrated Jamaican reggae musician Peter Charles, who said, and I quote, "Don't care from where you come from. As long as you are a black man, you are an African," unquote. At the moment, as I've attempted to make clear, the biggest problem that we face, and which is likely to pose the biggest security threat, is pervasive poverty. We need to have peace to deal with the debilitating problem of poverty. We would all agree that where there's chaos, where there's noise, where there's unrest, you're not likely to find money or the widespread prosperity that will enable the long-suffering masses of Africans to live lives of dignity. If we are going to build prosperous countries, we should have peace, and those who would lead Africa must seek and cherish peace. It is my fervent wish that we leave this year's event with a renewed sense of purpose and a clear strategy on how to build free, prosperous, and progressive countries, essential to the socio-economic development of Africa. For I have no doubt that it is only a free and democratic Africa that can achieve that goal. We have thus a huge responsibility for the future progress and prosperity of our continent, which rests squarely on our shoulders. Let us be up to the task. God bless the Democratic Union of Africa, Mother Africa, and us all.
whilst His Excellency and President Zabisa